Man, get up here in the Zoloft to get your head right.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Zoloft. Yeah, I watched the debates. Okay, some of it. Anybody who would vote for a Hillary Kane ticket is a confused hypocrite. For you liberals, what's one of your biggest butt-hurting gripes about Trump? Trump is gonna get us into a war with this brash behavior. Really? You think dictators ain't gonna be grinding their teeth ready to bash Kane's brains in like biblical Cain did his brother? As he sits at their table with that resting butt face that he has. Smirking and interrupting and twisting their words and making accusations and just arrogantly yapping out of his butt face. If you're worried about someone getting us into a war, you should be afraid of Cain. Because he does have an attitude that will tick people off, and they will not be afraid of his lack of military resolve. Dictators will not be afraid of Hillary and Cain. And Cain had the nerve to take a shot at Trump and his so-called associations with Russia, whatever that means. But we've got cold, hard, hot wire audio and video of Obama telling the Russians that he'll have more flexibility to be more accommodating. And the Obama administration are socialists, and you trust them to be tough on a nation that has their same socialist worldview? You socialist liberals out there are so afraid of us right-wing capitalists getting us into a war. Meanwhile, you Democrats really suck at keeping us out of wars, and you make wars get worse. Because you keep trying to make war about politics instead of engaging in war for what it's for. And that's to protect life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and property. Another nation tries to intrude upon our republic with that, or intrude upon our allies, well, that's where war comes in. But no, you just want to get in the way of that for political gain, which makes things worse. And Hillary and Cain are socialists. You know how socialists and communists end up resolving their issues? War and genocide. You want to know how us evil right-wing capitalists resolve our issues? We just don't do business with you anymore. Cain is a naive child when it comes to the war on Islamo-fascist terrorism. He thinks that the Obama administration made the world significantly safer and struck a major blow to terrorism by Osama being killed during his term, and is hoping to rub some of that credit off on Hillary Clinton. Dude, we've been trying to tell you liberals that killing bin Laden will not stop Islamo-fascist terrorism. And if you liberals stand in the way of the military decimating the havens of where they're allowed to operate, it will surely get worse. And it has. You liberals just kept accusing our military of killing civilians. Newsflash, pretty much all terrorists are civilians. These terrorists do not represent a legitimate state except the one they want to establish as their caliphate. Cain insisted that Pence didn't know the difference between leadership and dictatorship. Wrong. Cain is hoping that potential voters for the Hillary Cain ticket don't know the difference between leadership and dictatorship. Because if their potential voters really knew what a dictator was, they wouldn't vote Democrat. But most of their voters don't know the difference between a dictatorship and Santa Claus. And most of their voters will submit to their control for free stuff. The elites who fund them won't submit to their laws. But they'll posture themselves like they do to appease the little people so they can keep the little people down here and complacent. They have to give them little people that they claim to care so much about that false sense of the great feeling that you're punishing the rich that they envy so much. What other nonsense did Cain say? Oh yeah, where in the fruitcake does it say in the Constitution that a woman has a right to an abortion? Let me see if I can help you with that. It doesn't. In fact, it says the exact opposite. The Constitution clearly says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. If you are going to abort a child, you are going to deprive that kid of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and property. All those human attributes that Planned Parenthood poaches from that kid are that kid's property. Cain kept saying, why don't you trust women to make a decision? Why? Why don't you? Why don't you trust them? Huh? Why don't you trust women? Why don't you trust women to make a decision? Huh? What, you mean trust these women who can't even pay for their own decision and expect somebody else to pay for their decision? Cain doesn't even understand the first God-given right of the Constitution. He doesn't understand the first right of the First Amendment, which is the right to free religious exercise, a right listed even before free speech. Despite his deep faith, if Cain knew anything about the Bible, he'd know that at the core, the law is you are free, but your freedom can't be at the forced expense of another. He talks about how faith shouldn't be involved in policy. Wrong. Policy based on the Ten Commandments is what keeps people from doing each other dirty and protects the balance of freedom. To you Democrats, freedom is a one-way street. You don't care about the other side of the street despite your boastings of coexisting and diversity. You only see freedom as things like you having the freedom to have an abortion, but you don't see the freedom you intrude upon by depriving the preborn kid of their right to life, and the freedom you deprive others by depriving them of their property to pay for your choice. Cain doesn't understand the death penalty, constitutionally or biblically. A person who commits murder has positioned themselves to have their life deprived of them. That's why the Constitution says you cannot have your life deprived of you without due process of law. If after due process you are found guilty of such a capital offense, then that condition allows the death penalty. Anyway, liberals see freedom as things like gender-confused people forcing others to endorse their lifestyle. But you ignore the first right of the First Amendment that says that we have the right to free religious exercise, which means I don't have to endorse a sexually confused lifestyle. Anyway, as I was saying earlier, you liberals who think that a Trump administration would get us into a war, be honest and look at the VP debates. I really hope y'all can see the difference. Pence didn't at all look like he went into that debate looking for a fight. Cain did, though. Thanks again, y'all, for coming to get that refill in the Zoloft. And if you dig our sessions and want to support, please visit my website, AlfonZoRachel.com. I don't think you can overdose in the Zoloft, and I certainly don't think I can overdose on your generous contributions. God bless you. See you next time.
Trust women to make a decision. Why? Why don't you? Why don't you trust them? Why don't you trust women? Why don't you trust women to make a decision?